Hello, and welcome to Minding the Forest, a podcast of the Louisiana Forestry Association. I'm your host, Jeff Zeringue. In Minding the Forest, we'll talk about sustainable forestry, how important forests are to Louisiana and its economy, as well as issues in the forest products industry and how forests benefit everyone. We have with us Buck Vandersteen, Executive Director of the Louisiana Forestry Association. Buck, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jeff, and good day.
Good day to you,
to you. We want to talk a little bit about the upcoming legislative session of the Louisiana Legislature, beginning March 14th, going all the way to June the 6th. It's a long session. The good news, it's not a fiscal session, so...
That would have been my question. The next question, is this a fiscal session or not a fiscal session?
This is a catch-all session.
Okay.
This has everything from the kitchen sink to the planting trees out of doors. So it covers a lot of ground.
When there's not a financial session, then are new taxes off the table?
Yes,
Okay.
New taxes off the table. But budget items are still in play. Reducing possible taxes are in play, but no new taxes are generated. So that's a good thing. But the thing we have to watch out for is all of the other things that are in people's minds, and the special interest groups want to reach out to their legislators and say, maybe I'd like this or maybe I'd like that. And there could be thousands. In past similar sessions, there's been more than 3,000 bills introduced. The thing about this regular session that's coming up is the fact that we just finished a special session where a lot of attention was on redistricting. That happens once every 10 years. Most important thing from the redistricting session is that rural Louisiana has lost population. Our cities in Louisiana have grown in population. We lost a Senate seat up in the northwest part, and we've lost a House seat in the west central part of the state. If there's any good news from this, the members of the legislature were term limited, so they really didn't get thrown out. They had to leave, but there won't be any district that they have. Their districts will be consolidated with others. And next year, 2023, will be a Louisiana legislative election year. So all of this has to be resolved so that the legislature can be reelected or new people come in. Some of the things that we're talking about in this legislative session, and before I go into a couple of those things, because we don't know all of the details yet of what is going to be introduced. You have right now several pre-filed bills going on, but then during the legislative session, legislators can introduce legislation up to a certain time, and I think that time is in April that they have to file legislation, and that's where the snowballing effect of legislation being introduced, some of it just being introduced because a legislator was asked to do it with no hope of it ever passing or moving through the process, some coming along that have real opportunity to change the way Louisiana does business, the way it takes care of its people. So those are things that we have to watch very closely. And all of this legislation has to be reviewed and looked at. And the unfortunate thing with forestry legislation is that you're not going to find your major newspapers picking up information. And that's why it's so important for listeners and for people interested in forestry to receive our legislative report. And that's a simple thing to do, just calling our office, reaching out to our office, asking to receive the legislative report so that you know what is going on in the legislature affecting forestry so that we have a chance to be in the game.
Okay. And either calling the office at 318-443-2558, or you can send an email to at laforestry.com, and we'll get you signed up for the legislative report.
It's electronic. We'd love to use the mail for it, but sometimes when the legislation moves so quickly, by the time you'd receive it in the mail, it'd be history.
What are some of the, I know they pre-filed bills, you'd spoken about that. What are some of the pre-filed bills that you're looking at right now?
One bill is affecting our loggers. During the 2020 session, Representative Jack McFarland, who is in the timber business, a logger, strong leader in the Louisiana legislature, filed a bill that would allow for higher weights on log trucks to allow more efficiency in operation for logging. The administrators of that program interpreted the word timber differently from what all of us in forestry interpret the word timber. And they started writing tickets for people that were hauling wood chips instead of logs. So the issue here was that we need to go back in, clarify the law that timber includes chips coming out of the woods, logs, pulpwood, billets, you name it, anything that is a biomass related is a timber. These are some of the little nuances in law, but it shows the importance of words, and the words have to be exact, because if someone interprets them incorrectly, it can cost people money. And many loggers that thought they were doing the right thing got caught with substantial fines, $1,000 or more fines, because they thought they were doing the right thing and someone interpreted it differently. Another issue is on severance tax, and this is more of a clarification for what is actually practiced, and not some thoughts of Department of Revenue or someone saying, well, are we really collecting all of the tax? The important thing that a landowner needs to know about severance tax is that the severance tax is paid by the one who severs the timber. It's advisable that most landowners, when they offer to sell their timber, have a phrase in their contract that says the severance tax will be paid by the purchaser of their timber. Then you have the logger that is actually purchasing that timber and cutting that timber. And then the logger needs to be sure in their contracts that they're clear on who is paying the severance tax. You can see with landowner and logger, that could be thousands of people, but ultimately that wood goes to a manufacturing facility, and there's maybe 60, 80 to 100 of those manufacturing facilities that are receiving wood coming from the forest. They have agreed over time, it's become a common practice, that the mills collect the severance tax and remit it to the Department of Revenue. That is very convenient for the Department of Revenue, because they don't have to go interview or they don't have to go audit thousands of landowners, loggers, on who pays the severance tax. They only have to look at a few mills to see who's paying the severance tax. So it's important for the logger to be sure in their contract that the mills pay the severance tax. And the severance tax basically is paid on the mill as it's receiving wood. If I'm buying saw timber, the severance tax is based on saw timber. If I'm buying pulpwood or chips, it's based on the severance tax for pulpwood and chips. And the clarification in the law that's right now is just making sure that it's the wood that is actually going to the mill, that the mill is receiving, that the severance tax is paid. There's been some talk, some confusion that if a landowner cuts trees and left the pulpwood behind, someone would come along and charge them a severance tax for the wood that was left behind. That is not the case. Let me be extremely clear. Nothing left in the woods is going to be taxed. It's only the product that goes to the mill, received by the mill, that incurs the severance tax. Again, clarification in the language, no change in practice, but it's just making sure that the actions and the words mean the exact same thing.
Anything else that's been pre-filed?
No, not that I know of that has gone through the legislative oversight. See, the process is generally a bill may be talked about, staff is working on it. Once staff works on it, and staff being the legislative staff, it goes to a reviewer within the legislature, and then after they review it, then it actually gets ready for pre-filing. So it's not just a whimsical deal. Right. It is very organized, very methodical. And then we'll just have to watch that. And this is a really good opportunity for people that are visiting with their legislator, attending community meetings, church functions and that, and someone says, well, John Doe legislator is planning a bill that would, as we had in the past, charging a fee for every forest acre that's out there to go to local government. And before that bill was even filed, the community came together and said, that's not good legislation. That is not going to help people continue to grow trees. That's what's so important about this legislative process, is getting involved, being aware of things, we don't know everything here at the LFA office. We need a lot of our members across the state to review what's going on, talk to people in the coffee shops, their churches, their business communities, find out what's being thought. And if we can get ahead of things before they get to a point of being introduced in legislation, so much better.
Insurance has always been something that has been problematic for loggers. For everyone, but especially for loggers, it seems, because of just being able to find a policy, much less one that continues to go up by double-digit percentages. Is there anything that we hope will come up in the session that would help on that end for loggers?
Well, what we might see is a knee-jerk reaction to legislation that was passed a year ago, and tort reform and medical reform, and taking more of the courts out of what people get for compensation for an injury, taking excessive compensation, using an injury as a form of excessive compensation. In that process, many thought that because tort reform occurred, that you'd see immediate reductions in insurance rates. And people said, yes, we'll see these reductions. And that's just not happening. It hasn't had enough time to go through the system. As we've always said, this is a three-legged stool, basically. Number one is making sure that the truck drivers are safe and the trucks are safe. We're not going to reduce insurance. If the trucks are still involved in accidents, you're still going to have high insurance rates. The legislative reform has occurred in tort reform and medical malpractice. That has been helpful. And then thirdly is making sure that we're getting the right people in trucks, properly trained people in trucks, so that they are operating safe and the trucks are moving goods as they so importantly do. So those three things have to come together before there is experience, and then insurance rates will come down. We are impatient. We have very high insurance rates. We have, we're in the top 5 in the country, and our neighbors are so much lower than we are. And it is frustrating to our logging industry, to our trucking industry, that they have to pay such high insurance. I think the impatience of why aren't rates coming down immediately is going to create some legislation that will be a battle. And I hope we don't turn it back to saying, well, because we didn't lower rates, we're going to go back to the old way of doing things. And that would be a disaster.
Part of the reason for these tort reform bills seems to be to entice companies to come back and actually write policies. And then through that competition, the rates would hopefully start to come down. Have we seen any benefits on that front or any movement on that front so that more companies are saying, yep, I think I can write policies in Louisiana?
Well, you're absolutely right. Competition will bring rates down faster than anything else. But those companies that are looking at Louisiana have got to see a performance better than what they're seeing right now. We're not in the insurance business, but what we see and read is that investing or writing logging insurance, trucking insurance is not a profitable thing right now. But we've got to get it where those companies see opportunities for profit, see opportunities that our industry is safe and that we're performing properly before they start moving in. And when we accomplish that and they start coming in, then we will see the rates come down. And there's no reason that we can't be like our neighboring states in rates by doing this.
One other thing that's coming up in this session is, what do they do with an enormous surplus? Some of the history for the state is not very favorable, and there's a watch on for spending money that is recurring that would be really problematic. But then there's also, and I think it was Jack who had mentioned this in a conversation that we had concerning a lot of bridges out there that have to be fixed, that will enable loggers to shorten their routes to get to these mills. Is that something that we're watching closely, maybe with fingers crossed that it could be better this time around?
Number one is the infrastructure bill. The infrastructure bill did pass the Congress of the United States. It has sent billions of dollars to Louisiana and to all the other states to do infrastructure improvement. And that infrastructure, ports, bridges, roads, and everything else. And oftentimes that money goes for major metropolitan areas. But Louisiana is much like all of our other southern states, is that most of the roads in Louisiana, 70% of the roads in Louisiana are in rural areas. And we've got to be sure during this legislative session that as money is appropriated for roads from this infrastructure, that a lot of that goes to our rural areas for roads and bridges. That's one of the problems that we have with our insurance, is that the roads in Louisiana are dangerous. They're narrow. There's no shoulders on them, and if a truck has to get to the side of the road, get off the blacktop and onto the side, they tip over, or they don't have enough room to get around other traffic. So rural roads need to be very much a part of an infrastructure bill in Louisiana. The other thing that you mentioned about the amount of money that has come into Louisiana from the federal government. Louisiana is also blessed that during this pandemic, the state income tax and the revenue has also increased. So Louisiana has had an increase of state revenue and federal revenue. But if we don't learn from history, we're bound to repeat it. And one of the famous writers, I believe it was John McGinnis, had talked about the embarrassment of riches. And during 2005, when Hurricane Katrina came and devastated southeast Louisiana and into Mississippi, where we got millions and billions of dollars into the state, we basically blew it. We just went crazy. It was an embarrassment of riches. We spent money on things that just came back to haunt us, and that's why we had to raise taxes, because we spent money unwisely from the hurricanes that we had previously. So, and we're even paying some of that back now to FEMA, to the federal government, from those past monies that they loaned the state, and we didn't have opportunities to pay it back. Now that there is some money available, we're actually paying back government agencies from 10, 15, 20 years ago. So it is remarkable. I do sense in the legislature that history will not repeat itself. Legislators are saying, if we have all this money, let's do things that we can use it for one time. Improve some of our research stations at our agricultural centers, Southern University, Louisiana Tech, LSU. Improve the facilities that have gone unmaintained for a number of years. Let's work on that. Let's repair bridges. There's talk of expanding a bridge in Baton Rouge, replacing a bridge over Lake Charles, improvements in ports and Calcasieu over in Lake Charles, Baton Rouge, New Orleans. All of those things are good, and maybe some of that money to one-time supplemental teacher pay and things that can help move the state forward. But don't use that money for things that will come back and haunt us down the road. So we're going to have to watch that real close. Most people will be able to either be on social media or the news, because that's one of the main items that will be talked about. So people will definitely have a chance to learn about that and how it affects forestry. That's what we're here for.
So what other issues might be coming up this session that we have to keep an eye on?
It's wide open right now. We just keeping an eye on that. We hope that we have put to bed an issue of charging landowners a one-time fee for the privilege of growing trees. That was some misaligned legislation that was proposed, never got to a proposal in the legislature, but was talked about. And that's why it was so important to be listening in your community. If someone is saying something in the community, that means they're thinking about it. And if they're thinking about it, it could become written as a proposed piece of legislation. And if we can direct it in a positive way before it gets to a written form in the legislature, we are far better off than having to go down and fight it in the legislature. And
once again, we'd like to remind you, if you would like to receive legislative updates, Buck is keeping a close eye on the legislature all the time, every session, special or regular. And if you would like to receive updates when they're available, you can send us an email at lfa@laforestry.com or give us a call at 318-443-2558.
Thank you, and we are so excited with all these new mills that are coming to Louisiana that we have waited so many years to finally happen. But through numerous channels, through our Department of Economic Development that's doing a marvelous job getting information to potential businesses, to the people that do consulting around the country, looking at the resource base that we have in Louisiana. Just over the last 6-8 months, the number of mills that are coming in will be using about a billion more board feet of timber than have been used in Louisiana in the past. Millions of tons of wood will be used to produce the products that we need. And this is going to be tremendous for our logging force, for our landowners with the opportunity that have waited so long for markets to improve and to do the management work on their land to keep their forests healthy. And the opportunities that the mills will provide for hiring people in rural areas to build rural populations will be such a positive influence in forestry that the excitement level is just sky high, and we're doing everything possible to welcome these new mills to Louisiana and to help Louisiana continue to grow in this very important 75th year of the Louisiana Forestry Association. 75 years ago, we were organized to grow trees, and we did such a great job of that people were asking, well, we've grown so many trees now, where's the markets? Well, we can finally say 75 years.
The last inventory that we have record of was almost 15 million acres of forests in Louisiana. That has grown tremendously. And by increasing the use of that wood we really don't make that big a dent in the forest around Louisiana, do we?
No, not at all. Some of our critics might say, well, you're going to cut all of the trees and Louisiana is going to be left a barren moonscape. That couldn't be farther from the truth. We are a sustainable industry. We cut trees, we replant them. There are numerous programs that help landowners get trees back in the ground after harvest. And the biggest problem that we had was the markets and the low value that people receive for growing material. Because trees are a commodity, very similar that if you have too much of a commodity, the price goes down. We were growing more than 50% than what we cut. So you could see that we would just kept growing and our forest kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. The danger with that was that people would stop cutting and leaving your land more susceptible to insects, and just knock on wood that we have not had any major outbreaks of southern pine beetle or any other dangerous insect, or even wildfires that we've been blessed that we've not had much of that. So those things have been extremely helpful. The other issue that we had, you said 15 million acres, and that is true, and we add more forest acres every year, but that could easily change if people would see that there's no opportunity for them to market their timber. So these new mills coming in have changed that dynamic. People are now saying, well, maybe I'll hold that timberland a little bit more because I see a mill coming in. There are some areas that we're still working on. The southeast part of the state is an area that needs some more work, but some mills up in our neighbor Mississippi, they've already reached out to us saying that they'd like to work with us in the Florida parishes to supply their mills in Mississippi. So this is an excellent word and excellent opportunity for our landowners to start taking advantage of that. There's actually some mills in South Louisiana that want to use wood to produce a biofuel and biochemicals, and their eye is on our wood basket as well. So it is extremely exciting right now to be in forestry, and the landowners that have stuck with it, hats off to them for doing a good job, and our loggers that have gone through some very, very difficult times over the past with the pandemic and with the COVID and all of the mill shutdowns and the weather and that we've had. This is going to be a real wonderful opportunity for them to move forward and improve their efficiency. And of course, as we're talking with our machinery suppliers and our forest equipment dealers, they're saying that they're having issues with supply chains, getting parts, and we've heard stories of loggers having to shut down a job so that they can use the parts from that job to keep another job going. We've got some challenges still. It's not all peaches and cream, but we have some real opportunity here to grow and make it all come together and really add to value to Louisiana.
Buck Vandersteen, Executive Director of the Louisiana Forestry Association. Thanks, Buck. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Minding the Forest, a podcast of the Louisiana Forestry Association. If you'd like to learn more about sustainable forestry, the LFA and its programs, and how you can be part of an organization that supports landowners, loggers, and wood manufacturers in the state, go to laforestry.com. And remember, at the Louisiana Forestry Association, we're minding the forest for you.